Never forget that like SaaS isn't going to be the thing that's going to grow your business 100% year over year. Like people, product, price, promotion, places, right? Like those are the things, the 5 things that actually grow your business, and make sure most of your time and efforts focus on those things.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Free to Grow CFO podcast, where we dive deep into conversations about scaling a profitable D2C brand. I'm your host, John Blair, founder of Free to Grow CFO. We are the go-to outsourced finance and accounting firm for 8- and 9-figure D2C brands. All right, we're back, and I'm excited for today's conversation. I'm joined by my buddy Shingy Detlefson, CEO of Expandify. What's happening, Shingy?
Hey, John, thanks for having me on. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so today, we're going to chat about a bunch of things. Chat about your founder story, chat about what you guys are building over there at Expandify, talk about a little bit about, managing ad spend profitability, multi-channel e-commerce, marketing profitability analysis. But before we do, can you walk the audience through a brief background of kind of who you are and how you ended up where you're at today?
Yeah, sure. So, my background to entrepreneurship is more not straight out of college or anything like that. I did the corporate route for quite a while, 8 years. I graduated from Berkeley. It was a Haas undergrad there. So I was always fascinated with business. I loved it. I hated accounting and a couple other classes, but in general, I loved it. And it's so funny now when I reflect on school and I talk to like an 18-year-old or somebody who's looking, should I go to college or should I not go to college? I almost tell them like, it's almost better just to start a business. Like, even if you're doing it during college, all of the lessons and classes that you have during college will become so much more relevant. The simplest things like your Excel class, right? When you're doing these like theoretical exercises about whatever it may be, like it's not really interesting, but when it's your money, it's fascinating.
Totally. Having skin in the game.
Exactly. So I did corporate, I did Google, I worked at Hulu, I worked at Amazon for the longest time, worked for about 6 years. And while I was at Amazon, my wife started our company, Wholesome Story, and a dietary supplement company in the women's health and wellness space. And that grew to the point where every day after work, I would go home and we would just sit there and be working on it at night. We worked till like 10 o'clock at night. And then, the next day I'd go back to work, do the same thing over and over and over again. And we grew it to the point where I could finally leave Amazon. And that was in 2020. So we started the company in 2017. 3 years later, we could actually leave. And it's been a journey. It's like leaving corporate routes for entrepreneurship. I told everyone the day I left Amazon was like, Braveheart, the movie, when the guy's screaming,
Yeah.
right? That's how it felt. Like you leave and you're just like, wow, like my mind is mine. Any
Yeah.
corporate job paying you 80% of your mind is theirs. You're thinking about their problems. You're solving their things. You're stressing about what you have to do at work. And now my mind is mine. But the flip side of that is now I can't stop working. I can't stop thinking about the business. It never goes away. I can't just close my laptop and walk away. It's my money. It's my business. I got to invest in it. There's pros and cons.
Do you want to use debt to scale your D2C brand, but you don't know where to start? And to make matters worse, are you overwhelmed by all the options? Shopify Capital, Wayflyer, ABLs, SBA loans. How do you actually know which one is right for your business? Don't worry, we've got you covered. At Free to Grow CFO, we've helped nearly 100 fast-growing D2C brands, and we've raised tens of millions of dollars in debt capital along the way. And based on all this experience, we've created a helpful resource just for you, our D2C Debt Playbook. It's a debt playbook that'll help D2C operators like you make well-informed decisions about bringing in the right debt at the right time. Grab it for free at freetogrowcfo.com/debt or the link in the show notes. Well, okay, there's a couple things that you mentioned that I want to dive into a little bit deeper. One is with your wife starting a brand and you working with her on it.
Yeah.
Kind of, and we'll get into Expandify a little bit more in a second, but like you started this software tool that empowers e-com brand founders and operators, but shaped by, I would imagine, your experience helping your wife start and operate and scale an e-com brand. And so there's this huge disconnect I see oftentimes with SaaS tools like e-commerce, brand enabling SaaS tools, is that the founders have no idea what it's like to be in the shoes of their ideal client, right? And there's this huge disconnect. They're trying to solve a problem that they know has a lot of pain, maybe has a big TAM, but they don't actually understand the problem that they're solving. Walk me through a little bit about the core problem you guys are solving at Expandify, how you stumbled upon it, and the connection back to like your journey as an e-com operator?
Well, I'll start with where it started, and that was like we were trying to understand LTV on Amazon, and this is like 2021 timeframe when it was literally like nobody knew about customer data at all. The Shopify guys did, but we had just launched our Shopify store, and I saw all this cool customer information. I was like, well, can I get that for Amazon? And you couldn't, or you could, but like downloading reports, I was uploading them in Excel, I was playing with it, and it grew to the point where like my Excel couldn't handle it. Like the number of rows was just too big.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I was outside talking to my neighbor in Seattle about the problem I was having. He's like, "Yo, sure, we'll build something in a weekend." 5 years later, this is what Expandify is. It was just
Is that your
talking.
co-founder, or is your neighbor your co-founder?
He's my co-founder. Yeah,
I love that. I love
yeah,
that. So you started a brand, you're trying to figure out how to understand, your Amazon customer, but ultimately your Amazon performance, right? And you build a manual way to understand that with Excel. You break Excel, you talk with your neighbor about it, then you start Expandify.
exactly. That's how it
I
started.
love that.
John, I fully agree with you. Like, so my job at Amazon, I was a product manager, right? And we were building marketing automation tools for designers to handle like the issue of like Amazon is a worldwide company. How do we handle all these different languages, different art? We needed a way to manipulate it all together. And the exact problem that you're describing, where like I go to a designer and I'm trying to understand what they're doing, right? I'm trying to understand their work and like, like how does it work? And I'm trying to build a tool that they want to use. That is a very difficult thing to do well, like very difficult, because I am my own user. Any idea that I have for a report is a report that somebody else who operates a brand will want to use, because I'm answering a question that is an important business question that I have. And so that's how we've ended up with like 76 plus reports. Is anytime I have a question about my business, I answer that through Expandify.
So you started with the focus on understanding, we'll call it Amazon LTV, or Amazon customer repeat purchase behavior, maybe is another way to.
Exactly.
Where have you expanded, no pun intended, where have you expanded the capabilities to today within the platform?
Yeah. So today we know for every single customer their lifetime value. We know what promotions they're using. We know also what we call the lifetime profit, LTP, of that customer, which is the contribution profit of that customer. And so now you could put all of these things together and I can tell you precisely how much can you pay to acquire this customer and how much can you not pay to acquire this customer. Like if you overpaid, you will never make your money back. And again, I treat this like, because I'm solving it for my own business with my own real money. I'm taking what I'm learning for Expandify and applying it. It better darn work. Or otherwise, like, what am I doing? And like, let me just show you a good example. Like, we just launched a tool called the Spend Planner, and the Spend Planner is essentially it shows you what spend you are at currently for CAC. So let's say you're at a $10 CAC, and it's optimizing for 12-month contribution profit from those customers that you are going to acquire. And what it'll tell you is either you should spend more, so increase your CAC. You should spend less. You should decrease your CAC. And when you spend more or you spend less, there's a diminishing curve of new customers that you get, right? If you spend more, so you spend more, 100% more, you're not going to get 100% more customers. It'll diminish, right? You probably get like 60% or something like that. And so it's playing in that diminishing curve to optimize for 12-month contribution profit, which is literally like what you guys do. It's like the best metric in the world, regardless if you're trying to sell your business, if you're trying to cash flow your business, like whatever it is, it's the best metric. And what we discovered in that one was that like we were underspending significantly on our products, like significantly. And we were following the old like hack, which was like, hey, if you're ranked top 4 organically for your products, you should cut ad spend for those keywords. We were like, oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. That's the worst idea I've ever heard in my life, dude. Now that I go back and look at the data, like we increased our ad spend from January to March by 100%. So $150,000 a month to $300,000. Our CAC is flat. We are still in our model, still telling us to spend more. March was a record month for us in both new customer acquisition, returning customers, and top line sales. And 12 months from now will be a record month for us in contribution profit.
So okay, there's a couple of things I want to draw here. First off, I've said this a lot in my content, but I just want to reiterate this. Scaling an e-commerce brand fast and profitably is not about minimizing CAC. It's
Yes.
about figuring out the highest your CAC can possibly go and the most ad spend you could possibly spend at that CAC. Whoever can spend the most to acquire a customer is going to win. And the thing is, there's more than one dimension that plays into that decision, right? There's what is the unit economics of gross profit on a new customer order? What's available, right? And then what does the repeat purchase profile look like of each cohort? And those things are always changing too, right? They're not always the same.
Yes.
Furthermore, and this is where we got into Expandify at Free to Grow CFO, is you may have more than one sales channel. So you have Shopify maybe to start, and then your Shopify and Amazon. And really quickly for us, like we had everything dialed, in terms of the process of doing kind of LTV to CAC analysis, figuring out how hard we could push ad spend to maximize contribution margin. But then once those brands opened up Amazon, it became this black hole. And those brands were all spending enough money on Meta that we know for a fact it's converting on Amazon. But when you can't tell how much it's driving new customer sales versus returning customer sales, and also see it on a cohort basis, starts becoming near impossible, right? To decide if you should throttle spend up or down or keep it where it's at. I mean, we're using it for a lot of things, but one of like the bread and butter is looking at a combined cohort model of Shopify and Amazon together, because we know that they together are being driven by meta spend, right? And not making the incorrect conclusion that D2C is unprofitable when it actually is profitable, or like the whole funnel is actually profitable, but you got to take into account what's happening on Shopify. I do want to ask like a really key question, because I don't think a lot of people understand this. I've beat my head against the wall for too many years dealing with this problem. It sounds like you did too, and you broke Excel. Why is it so hard to analyze cohort level data on Amazon if you don't have a tool like Expandify?
You can do it once fairly easily. It's actually redoing it every time is what's difficult. And that's because like your whole business isn't like an organism you can treat it. Right? It's like moving, right? In different ways. And it's like customer data, it's not a fixed point in time thing. Like you can have a customer that gets a sale and then they get a refund. You can have a customer that gets just two additional sales. And every time that new thing comes in, you have to go update everything. So all of your stats need to be updated. Every single customer with every new sale needs to have that added to them or removed for them if there's a refund. Like the reprocessing side of customer analytics is the difficult side. And that's why there's like, like what AI is doing to SaaS is really like it's destroying CRUD apps like create, read, update, delete, right? Like a Monday board, that kind of stuff, like super easy. The processing side has not changed. And processing also comes at like a significant cost because you have to run servers to go do all of that. And pipeline data, like Amazon has the absolute worst API in the world. And you get to
Yeah,
go
it
do all.
really is.
Yeah, and so, like, I've seen so many of my peers like, "Oh, I'm doing it, I spent, like, 14 hours on it yesterday, and it still isn't working, but I'm almost there," right? Like, I tell everyone with AI, like, with vibe coding, you can get to 80% like that, and then, this is what I learned to tell people. You feel like you're a god. You feel like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I don't need anything. I don't need anyone anymore." But the remaining 20% is the most difficult part, and you will actually never complete it. You will give up. The majority of people will give up before they get there. But yeah, so that's the
That
difficult
makes
part
sense.
is
Yeah,
reprocess.
when you put it in those terms, that makes perfect sense. It's like, cool, building the snapshot one time, great. But then what do you do when you need to refresh it the following month and the following month and here's the thing, these are not snapshots that you look at once and then you look at them again in 12 months. You have to be looking at them at minimum every single month, because every cohort's different. There's different things you're doing marketing tactic wise that drive different behavior within a given cohort. Like, I'll give a perfect example. There's a brand that we work with that we helped them test offering a steeper discount on subscription opt-in, right? And so that cohort is the steepest opt-in discount they'd ever historically offered. That cohort had a much different month one behavior, but the follow on month 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 was also vastly different, and the retention was incredible, and it more than paid for the steeper loss that we took in month one. And so the point I'm making is like, this is actually a trap. I'm curious to get your opinion on this. As I use cohort data more as a CFO, back in the day when I first started using it, you kind of look at like some of the averages and some of the global kind of statistics within a 12-month cohort model to give you like rough benchmarks of, okay, we can spend up to here. But as I do it more and more, I'm like, we got to look at each cohort, because we're tweaking, we're messing around with what products are we trying to get to use to acquire new customers? What are we doing to incentivize subscription opt-ins? What are you This is getting at my question for you, which is like, what do you think is the most valuable? What are the levels of granularity you need to go down when you go from like the global 12-month cohort? Where do you need to go from there to get more granular to really understand what's going on?
I think at the end of the day, every question should be a customer question. Like the promotion question that you get exactly is like we did a study and I did it on my own brands and it's a reporting Spanify, but there's not a single promotion that I found that was not incremental. Zero. Like of everything that Amazon offers, the brand tailored promotions, subscribers, like coupons, reorder coupons, like best deals, like they're literally all incremental. And this is why Amazon does like it has how many Prime days this year? It's going to have 3 different Prime days, and I bet you next year there'll be 4.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And it'll 5. So every month there'll be a Prime day or whatever. And the reason for that is it's literally incremental every single time. But there are varying degrees of incrementality, right? There's like a little bit incremental, like a brand tailored promotion. Abandoned cart is a good one. It's like $2 or $1 incremental. And then you go to like brand tailored promotions, high potential new customers. Now that's like $19 incremental. So what promotion you run matters. And if you're looking at it only through the lens of like sales, you can't see it. You see, oh,
Totally.
I got a sale, good, but you don't know why or what, like what's important about that. So yeah, that's my favorite thing is like every business question comes back down to a customer question, and that's hopefully where we can answer those. I fully agree that like the data I'm looking at now is like daily CAC, especially when you're making these big changes in your business. Like if you're steady state, meh, once a month. But if you're like, hey, we're doubling ad spend, you better believe I'm watching this like a hawk. Our CAC better not be going up to insanity there. So yeah, it's all over, I'd say, John. But like, yeah, there's a hard place where you should not be looking at customer and should only be looking at sales.
Yeah. Well, okay, man, my mind is going so many different places of things I want to talk about. I had this argument with a someone that worked within one of our clients' businesses. He doesn't have anything, he's not even on the executive team really. He's on the data team, and he was arguing with me about the fact that they're a newer client, we're instituting a CAC ceiling, and he was really pissed about it. He's like, the marketing team's not going to care about this. All they care about is blended ROI. And I was like, dude, I know. That's why we're implementing a CAC ceiling. This is not a high LTV consumables brand. This is an apparel brand that they've got to break even at least on new customers. They have a lot of LTV, but that LTV gets accumulated not over like 3 or 4 months. You can't break even on a loss in 3 or 4 months. This is like you create raving fans in over 12, 18, 24 months. You build up these big repeat purchase waves, but it's not something where you can afford to use that to fund a new customer loss. And he couldn't understand this. And I was having a hard time explaining to him, not because I didn't understand it, but because he had not been in the marketing to understand some of these dynamics. Because you do have to have at least a baseline understanding of your customer's behavior. That's what this comes back to. I'm learning, and this makes sense when I say this out loud, but not everyone knows this. You can't coerce a different product categories consumption patterns on your customers. If you sell consumer electronics, a durable good, you can't force them into opting into a subscription. That's not how that product is consumed. Same thing with apparel. Like, you just have to know your customer's behavior. And then when you start getting into some of these analytics, it starts becoming really powerful. The second thing I want to say is we have a mutual client, Free to Grow CFO and Expandify, and I talked to them last week. It's not my CFO client, but I talked to their CEO last week about something separate. And he was telling me how next level it was for Expandify. Our CFO used Expandify to help them understand, like, hey, on Amazon, there's this product that's driving most of your subscription opt-in, and it's not what we thought is our hero product. It's this other one. And they de-emphasized the one that they thought was their new customer, like, kind of acquisition hero product, and they started doubling down on driving subscriptions for this other one. That is basically their whole business now. And they just had last month a record revenue and profit month
Yeah.
because of this insight. And so I just want to say that out loud because I want people to hear it literally is that impactful. They just had a record revenue and profit month. And I think we started working with them maybe 18 months ago. They've doubled their revenue since then, and they were losing money on a bottom line basis before, and now they're profitable, double the revenue. It's really huge impact you can make with this analytics.
Well, I mean, that's the power. It's like when you can see that you can spend more or do more, it's not a guess anymore, right? It's not a hunch that like, oh, I think we should be spending more. It's like, no, dude, you literally can't. And even on your point where like we have a report, it's called LTV to CAC and LTP to CAC. And on the LTP to CAC side, it's like, what's your ratio for CAC to, to lifetime profit? And I always tell people, I say, go look at the 12-month mark and then look at the return that you get. So for instance, you put $1 in advertising, you're getting $2.30 back. Can you get that return in the stock market?
Yeah.
No, you absolutely
Yeah,
cannot.
like it's like, and you can't get that in most things, like over a 12-month period. Oh,
No.
like most people are doubling their money in maybe a 12 to 15-month period with a standard return on most other investments, right? So 12 to 15 years, not 12 months, right?
Yeah. And so like that's like the mind that I love to tell people. It's like, guys, like you have a business that is like there's a reason why other companies want to buy companies like ours. And that's because they could take $1 and they could turn it into 230 in a year. Like that's incredible. But then it comes back to your point where like, sub brands that have like that 18-month or 24 months, it doesn't make sense to go past a certain amount. You're better off just putting your money in the stock market. And for some products, that is also true. So it's like that's the other learning that I've had. It's dude, everything is brand dependent. Everything is product dependent. There's no one size fits all. And like to your point too, John, like everyone's like, oh, now I have AI. I don't need people anymore. And like I'm the more I build Expandify, the more I realize like we need smart people like, John, your group to help our users because otherwise it takes a PhD to like you have all of this data, but you need to understand what. So what? What do I do with it? And do it confidently. Right.
Totally.
That's the key part. You really need someone like your group.
Well, okay, so a couple of things you mentioned. I always tell my team, and this is true, we pride ourselves on this. Most CFO firms, when it comes to marketing spend, they are like these old school traditional CFOs of like they're trying to protect the business from too much marketing spend. So they're
Right.
looking for reasons to
Yeah.
pull it back. I
Yeah.
always tell my team, we're the opposite. We specifically work with scaling brands. Our goal is to give you permission to increase spend, but knowing that we can prove that it's going to increase your profitability if you do so. And that's not always there. Sometimes there's work that needs to be done to make to put that framework in place to make it possible. But that's the mindset shift. It's looking for permission to, like you said, with confidence, be able to scale spend to grow fast and grow profitably. And the way we do it on the CFO side, going back to like, do you need people? Do you need a CFO now that there's AI? Well, you guys opened up your MCP. We're messing with that and we're using it to answer all kinds of questions. But guess what we're able to do? First off, we're able to know what questions to ask, which is a really important thing. Not everyone knows the right questions to ask, right? But then furthermore, when we get a recommendation or we get some insights, we can then translate to that's going to impact our P&L and our balance sheet and our cash flow statement in these ways. But one step further, assess risk. That's really important because AI can give you a mathematical, like a logically correct answer that doesn't have a proper assessment of risk. And then also, we have to come back to the humans involved in the business, the owners, the founders, the CEO, and say, what are your goals and what's your risk tolerance? And we need to take these insights and help you make decisions that kind of triangulate all of those things together. Now, we don't need analysts as much anymore to break Excel like you did before you started Expandify, but we certainly need financial strategists to help make sense of all this and then turn it into decision making.
Yep. And I'm a big fan. Like that's I think it like AI is going the same way the PC did. Right. It's just making everyone so much more capable. And you give it to an extremely capable person and they become an incredible person. Like that's
Most
basically
people
what
forget before calculators, you know what a calculator was? It was a person. There was a job called a calculator. Big giant corporations had entire floors of
right.
people called calculators. And that's where all the math got done for all these different areas of the business. And then when the calculator came around, and then obviously later the computer, all those calculators lost their jobs. But people started then changing their careers to leverage that new technology and still carry out a lot of the same outcomes, but just in a different way. I want to ask you, like, man, I might need to have you come back on again because the way that you think, I think, is really, really helpful for our audience. But if you had like one piece of advice for a brand founder that's trying to figure out Amazon and Shopify LTV from the wisdom of you going on that journey on your own, what's the one thing you suggest they look at?
So there's this saying where you make 20% of your money operating your business, you make 80% when you sell. And I think so many people that they know that, but they forget that the decisions to make the 80% matter. And so like I see like many brands, like they'll go grow a business and they try to go like super wide, they stand for nothing, or they'll make these decisions which are like gray or black hat, and they're forgetting that they're going to make 80% of their money when they're going to sell their business. And what that spirals into, it's like if you make these decisions, nobody will buy you. Like you become unbuyable. And then they've built a business that doesn't even cash flow well, thinking that they're going to exit. So I would say like always have the goal in mind of what you want to achieve. If you're going to cash flow, this is a great business too. Like do that too. But like,
Totally.
yeah. And then never forget that like SaaS isn't going to be the thing that's going to grow your business 100% year over year. Like we all want to point fingers and blame too, but it's being is its core. It's like people, product, price, promotion, places, right? Like those are the things, the 5 things that actually grow your business, and make sure most of your time and efforts focus on those things. And then
Man,
lastly, my rule for my entire team. This is the key rule. You can never violate this rule. Never go out of stock. That is the one rule for e-commerce. Like you just never do that.
especially if you're a
Yes.
high LTV brand, I always tell those brands, do not run out of subscription inventory. If you can't fill your subscriptions, it's a death sentence. But yeah, man, this was an awesome conversation. Before we close up here, where can people find more information about Expandify and about Wholesome Story, your brand?
Yeah. Just go to expandify.com. We have a 14-day free trial. I always recommend people like just try it. And we don't have a sales team. We don't have people that bug you, try to get you back, cold call you, none of that. We don't do that. We haven't spent $1 in advertising either. And we treat the product as our ads. So if we don't have a good enough product, that's on us. There's also like what we found is there is product market fit, and our product is not the best for some brands too. Like brands that don't have these worries about CAC to LTV, or they're all one-time purchases, not a great fit. But
For
brands
sure.
that do, perfect fit. And then wholesomestory.com is for our dietary supplement company. But yeah, it's been great, John. Wonderful, wonderful to chat. Happy to do it again.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. I think we will have to do this again, and we look forward to kind of further developing our partnership with you guys. It's been great with the mutual clients we've been working on, and we're excited about where you guys are taking the tool. So thanks again for joining, man.
Cool. Appreciate it, John. Have a good one.
Don't forget, if you like today's episode, please hit the subscribe button and leave us a review. It helps us reach more people like you. Also, if you want daily tips on scaling a profitable D2C brand, follow me, John Blair, on LinkedIn. And if you're interested in learning more about how Free to Grow CFO can help your brand increase profit and cash flow as you scale, check us out at freetogrowcfo.com.